As I mentioned, there is a document about the research carried out in the Third Reich and in Argentina, in a set of documents, in fact, available in the U.S. archives, NARA archives at College Park near Washington, which says, for example, you are interested particularly in this, that research on new concepts, plasma systems, experimental approach to the unified field theory, experimental one, into research on the velocity of propagation of gravity, and also nuclear propulsion system, because generally for the Germans during the war it was a nuclear project, because in fact it was a nuclear, because mostly nuclear scientists were working on this, because it the project concentrated in fact on reducing radiation by various side effects, and because these side effects resembled what was observed in the case of nuclear physics, then mostly nuclear physics physicists worked on this. Okay.
Polnische kann ich leider nicht lesen.
Nein. Ja, aber Dokument ist in Englisch.
Ja, das Dokument habe ich ja durch.
What more? And there is a lot that I didn't say, but for example, there was another one, such a drawing. I don't remember. Not here. No. Okay, doesn't matter. One of the Annerbe of the SS was also interested in not just in Greek mythology but also in Tibetan sources. Tibetan manuscripts contain quite specific descriptions of flying machines propelled by in a very similar way as the bell work, and one of them, the Tibetans didn't have a word for high voltage, for example, or they did have word for mercury, and mercury propulsion is described in many ancient Tibetan or Indian books. And they even go on to say that these machines of the gods utilized an energy that is unknown to humans, that it is something called vril. This is a German publication from the 1920s, I guess, I don't remember. Vril, die kosmische Urkraft, Wiedergeburt von Atlantis, von Johannes Täufer.
Ist eine Ableitung von den Vrillianern.
Aha. Vril was energy, according to the Tibetan descriptions, was energy linking various kinds of energy, such as the energy of the thunder, which we may translate into electromagnetic forces, and so it may be translated into our modern language, and as you can see, the Germans and the SS was aware of such links. And another thing is that there are such drawings. I'm not sure about the sources of this. It's still suspicious. Nevertheless, this is a flying saucer called Vril 9, Abjäger or Abfangjäger. Which on this drawing you may come closer later on and see it. There is a bell, which is presented here as only part of a much larger system, and me and also the other people who were working on this in Poland in the special services they always, and I myself as well, they always suspected that the bell was, the Glocke, was only a part of a larger system. But it could never be, developed. But here, for example, I'm not sure if it's credible, this drawing, but here, for example, it is shown as part, exactly, that there is a shaft from the, going as a, the axis of the bell, it goes much lower, and it is a shaft that connects it with a kind of larger propulsion system or something like that. I'm not sure if it's credible, but there are such drawings with the bell, a couple of them. Yeah. What else? This is one. Sorry, and this is another one. When also one may have the impression that this is the shaft of the bell, and this might have been the bell, because it's this description, this drawing that I showed you is just a fantasy. It's not exactly how it looked like. It looked like more like I have a drawing here, just more accurate. Just a moment, sorry. Yeah, more like such a thing. And the high voltage cable was connected to the top here. This is a ceramic cover, and so on.
How much kV, you know it?
Excuse me?
How much kV the high voltage cable? What is that?
How much?
Voltage, the voltage, how much?
Around half a million. Half a million volts.
500,000.
Yeah. And Professor Gerlach didn't ever write after the war, because he was a rector of the Munich University, and therefore he had much to lose. So he didn't write anything basically after his wartime activity. But there was one exception. It was a Tagungs, the conference of the AG in 50er Jahren. I don't remember exactly when, but it's in the sources. Where he said, and it has been written and is available from the as Tagungsmaterial from the AG conference and so on, that he was using a generator for 500,000 volts, and obviously it could never be explained officially, according to the official history, what he might have needed it for, because Gerlach was not the only prominent scientist who was such a mysterious person in such a way that nobody knew exactly. He was a president des Reichsforschungsrates, for example. So one could have one has to assume that he must have been deeply engaged in activities important from the point of view of the war. Kriegsentscheidende or kriegswichtige Arbeiten. But nothing is available. And another, such a grey eminence, is such a word in Deutsch? Graue Eminenz. Sorry, Graue Eminenz. And another such a grey eminence was Professor Zenger, who was father of the German space research generally, but nobody could say anything about what he was doing during the war. It's hard to assume that he was doing nothing. It's another such a case, and Zenger had something to do with the SS. I can say it for sure, but when I was looking for, I was working in various archives throughout the world, in many countries, and once in the U.S. NARA archive near Washington, I have found the American files on Professor, not Professor Zenger, Hermann Obert, sorry, on Hermann, which is, by the way, another such a person that we know very little about. In fact, we know that he was designing a space shuttle or a space bomber, you know, but nothing specific. We know nothing about his activity. In the files of Professor Hermann Obert, I found information that he was an ardent occultist, he's very much interested in occultism. So it's another, you know, page of the history of the Third Reich.
Like Himmler. He was occultist too. Huh? Oops.
Is there anything that you would like for me to tell you?
Yes. What do you think was the Glocke? For what purpose they made it?
You know, it might have been a part of something, but a crucial part of a propulsion system, because with this data that we have today on the link between electromagnetism and gravity, we may say for sure, and plasma physics, we may say for sure that it would have generated significant anti-gravity forces, significant. Perhaps it would have needed something to control the flying craft, you know, subsystems for various, I don't know, purposes, but I see it as an anti-gravity device.
Okay. And do you think they had made some, you said they had more than one, they finished the work here and built it in such a craft? Before the end of the war? Or
I don't know.
And after the war?
I don't know. You know, the state of this research was such that only in March or February 1945 they have overcome the main problem so far, which is that the main problem is that if you have such a cylinder and the plasma is spinning, the velocity, you know, there was the Americans have made a research project in the 1990s, which was codenamed Shiva Star, and the aim of it was to generate such a plasma vortices, and they have managed to achieve 10% of the speed of light in the plasma. So the problem is such that if you have such a vortex spinning so fast, then any collision of the ions, heavy ions, with the electrodes or other, you know, parts of the device generates quite a strong neutron and other kinds of radiations. And the Germans until early 1945 couldn't overcome this problem of generating this radiation, because they eventually have managed to reduce it by, you know, 10 times or so. So in the spring of 1945, only 2-4% of the biological samples were damaged, for example. So I think that maybe they have perfected the bell before the end of the war, but I don't think that they would have enough time to go any further. Some amount of mercury was inside, and it was spinned at high velocity initially before turning on the power, the high voltage. So the mercury was accumulated in a form of torus on the circumference, and there was an axis here. There was an axis, and one electrode was the circumference of the mercury, and the other electrode was the axis. So when it was spinning and they turned on electric, current, it started to be attracted to the axis, but because it had already a certain, momentum of rotational momentum, so it was spinning faster and faster as it was accelerated towards the axis, So at some stage there was an equilibrium, and it created a torus, and donut, like a vortex, this way. That's how it is, The other name for the bell then, there was one name was used that was the Glocke, but also the other name was the Bienenstock. Some people suggested to me that it might have been because it generated sound resembling bees, closed in something, such as a transformer station. It's such a buzzing sound, humming sound. But another, also in the case of modern accelerators, such a configurations where you have two vortices, because such a configuration is known to science, is also called a Bienenstock configuration, not because of the sound, but because these vortices, because they repel each other, because they spinning in opposite directions, they form such a something that resembles the nest of wasps, for example, such a egg-like shape.
Ich habe, glaube ich, in Ihrem Buch gelesen, dass Sie Ende der 80er Jahre bei jemandem waren, der irgendwelche Artefakte aus UFOs hatte auf seinem Tisch.
Ja, weil sagen Sie noch einmal.
Ich habe in Ihrem Buch gelesen, dass Sie Ende der 80er Jahre, als Sie angefangen haben zu recherchieren, bei jemandem waren vom Intelligence Service, also Geheimdienst, glaube ich, dass der irgendwelche Artefakte aus dem UFO hatte auf seinem Tisch. Und,
ich?
Ja, waren Sie das nicht?
Nein, ich kenne zwei Leute, die
in English,
I know two people from our military in Poland who were gathering reports on the UFOs. One I know personally, which is Colonel Oberst Grundmann. He was gathering such reports, but I also once met a man from General Staff, which means military intelligence. It's not a secret. His name was Wojciak.
Richtig, Wojciak, genau.
And what he was able to show was not just single-page reports, but it was such a pile of materials on one case only.
Oh,
yeah. So one report because there was a report in that over a military unit in Ustka, which is an Ozzekust.
Yeah.
There was a UFO observed by a soldier on the ground, by the radar, and by a pilot of a helicopter, I guess.
Yeah.
And in this case, there was such an investigation that they wrote such a book, such a thick, such a book only that large and in format,
Yeah.
on the possible effects, such as reflections of the radar wave from the ground that could affect, or the malfunctions of the entire research on the examination of the radar, of all the radio equipment, everything. So, it was a public meeting in 1986, I guess, and it wasn't a secret at all, contrary to what the Americans were doing. it wasn't secret. No, and in the similar was the case in the Soviet Union, when there were very interesting things going on, and they were not making any secret of it. I mean, it wasn't that anyone can go and take these materials, but it wasn't a secret.
Yeah.
And personally, I saw many UFOs.
Yeah.
Many.
Yeah. What do you think the military service or the intelligence service are thinking about UFOs?
I don't know.
You don't know? They didn't say to you?
What are they?
Your informants?
I mean, with the personal, impression was such that it is obvious for them that it is extraterrestrial. But it was my personal. I'm not sure if there was any written anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they are just not dealing with such a philosophical questions. Their task was to explain whether it might have been this or that, and that's it. I'm not sure if they plunge into deliberations on other civilizations, because it's military is not what it is for.
So
you may personally ask such a person.
Yes, of course. Yeah, but
but
that means they don't have a contact with them, or they don't say that they have a contact with them. Well, if they come from outer space, they can say, "Hey, we come from Venus, and I'm."
Yes, it all depends.
The Botschafter.
It all depends on the level of these people that are doing this, because officially, I'm not sure if anybody was asking them a question about such a thing. Mm-hmm. Whether it was extraterrestrial, because I don't think so.
Oh, okay. As they know the UFO problem.
It's a political problem.
Political
more than
Lower Silesia or Niederschlesien was a part of Germany that where many hundreds of factories were evacuated because it was a region that wasn't bombed, wasn't in danger with bombings, nicknamed by Minister Goebbels as Reichsluftschutzraum, and also very many underground facilities were built there. In many cases, they were never uncovered after the war. And one of such a place was it's a mountain southeast from Breslau. Wie heißt es in Deutsch?
Zottenberg.
Ja?
Zottenberg.
Aber das gibt noch andere Namen, auf welche weiß ich genau.
Yeah, there was a Polish major of military counterintelligence post in Breslau, Major Szorek, who was very much interested in this place, and he has found, as an official counterintelligence officer, he has found there many O-ring, very small things such as rubber, ceilings, various such things in such a canals for draining every such a underground facility has to be drained. But among other things, one very strange thing he has found. I mean, not one, many. Like from X-Files. It was such small glass cylinders, maybe 3-4 millimeters in diameter, couple of centimeters long. And in each one of them, there was it was both endings were convex, so that you could look inside such a small glass cylinder like through a magnifying lens, you understand it. And in each one of them, it was glass. In which each one of them was a micro photograph, which you could look at thanks to the fact that the surface was on, and these photographs presented common things: a church, a road, a mountain, such a things. Nothing special. So he could never explain what was the purpose of it, but it was very strange. But I don't know what is underground of that exactly, because nobody got there after the war. I don't know exactly about this event that you mentioned, but the problem is genuine. Maybe some governments would like to use it for their own purposes, but the phenomenon is, in my opinion, genuine, because I saw it personally, and
it's real. Yeah.
Okay. My impression is, I don't know exactly about this case, but I'm not sure if you noticed, but the Russians have recently, in recent years, have disclosed a couple of interesting things about it, and I think that it's Englishmen would say, I think. It's not that I think, but
a little bit more, huh?
Yeah, something is about to happen, and they would like to play this card, in some way, but it's not that they are afraid of it. We will see. I know that you would like to think about it as a Third Reich, technology, but it's what the Germans wanted to do was to reproduce something that was already existing.
Yeah.
It's not that one explanation rules out the other one. It's it's an extraterrestrial link in the case of the Third Reich, I would say.
Maybe.
Because it's not that it contradicts the extraterrestrial hypothesis. We will see soon.
So the extraterrestrial helped the Nazis, yeah?
No.
No?
No.
Well,
the Nazis have understood and utilized the technology with tacit approval of the other forces, but perhaps the Germans thought that it's for them to win the war, but it wasn't the right conclusion. It wouldn't be right conclusion, because they didn't want the war. The purpose of it was very different, not having much to do with the Third Reich. They were not they had not the right, it was impossible for the Germans during the war to understand that they may play a role in something that goes much farther, much beyond. But that's what the case. It was a game, like any game. They were used, but it was an extraterrestrial technology understood by them. But it wasn't just by them on their own. They had maybe not assistance, but acceptance.
Uh-huh.
Because it suited. It's hard to say it so. Because I'm giving you only the conclusion, not without the way that I got to this conclusion. But let's end it with saying that that it might have been something more complex than they imagined. Oh, this way.
Ja, da gab es damals das Projekt Riese. You know the project Riese?
Yes.
Das ist Schloss Fürstenberg hing damit zusammen, ne? Kann es sein,
Ich habe
das
gefunden.
komplex war?
Okay, I would say, but I have found a document in Bundesarchiv,
Naja.
which was classic. You know, it had by accident. It shouldn't. I shouldn't find it because it was by mistake. Had different signature. By mistake, I have found a document of Kammler about the so-called Sonderbauvorhaben S3. And Riese was part of the Sonderbauvorhaben S3, just a part, along with other facilities in the vicinity.
But I have a question. Sonderbau 3, it is Jonastal and Thüringen? Jonastal?
Sonderbauvorhaben was
S3,
a category of objects. One S3 was in Jonastal, one S3 was in Niederschlesien.
It's apart from
In Niederschlesien also war auch ein S3. Wer weiß man noch?
It was, you know,
das wissen wir nicht.
A-Vorhaben was the factories, kriegswichtige Fabriken. B-Vorhaben was Kooperanten und solche. S-Vorhaben waren die zentrale command posts and central institution and command posts of the state. That was S3, for example, and one S3 was there. One was. It was a kind of underground, capital of the state, with all the telecommunication equipment, including storage sites for weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical weapons. In Jonastal, it was object Yasmin Tabun was, for example, and the same was in the case of the Sonderbauvorhaben S3 and Riese.
You are inside in the project Riese, in the systems, in the underground systems? Were you inside, or
Yes.
for water?
Yeah.
Ja,
There
komm.
was a special technology for the secret of the systems, and it was the Kammler. What is the name for it? It's a German fruit, Birne. Electrical Birne. Elektrische Birne. Wissen wie ich sonst nennen soll.
Kammlerbirne, ja.
Kammlerbirne, ja. They take the energy from the body and takes it very quickly from the body, and the most people are very
They get out in a
Get
few
out and
seconds.
break down.
Oh, okay, that is a good last word for the moment. Maybe we see us next year. Maybe. Thank you so much.